Okay, welcome to our Viva Cristo Rey Catechism classes. These classes are different than what is being presented in the mission. So we're trying to fill in things that you won't hear in the mission. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you the revolution that's going on in the world today. Tomorrow, what's the revolution aimed at? The next day, I might talk about the underlying philosophy that makes the revolution spread and work. But I think you're all so well educated here on that particular subject, which is evolution, that we might skip that and go to the wine tasters, depending on who comes. The wine tasters, which will help you understand how to fight better. And then the final day will be how to counteract the revolution that's in our midst. So the final days, the more, what do we do about it, Father? So don't get too depressed until you hear the whole story all the way through. It can be a little bit sad to see where we're at. It can be disconcerting. Like, Father, can you tell us something positive? We need a little boost here. Because it can be a little pressing. All right, we're going to talk about why that's the case. So today, we'll start with the revolution. Now, there's a revolution going on. Now, we know this. True knowledge, Aristotle tells us, is knowledge of causes. Now, he's got specific causes in mind. We're not going to go through those specific causes, but the underlying principle is the same. If we can understand what's causing things, we'll get a good grip of what it's all about. And then we'll be able to counteract it properly and in an orderly, virtuous manner. So today, let's go through what it looks like. There is a revolution going on. Yes, we know that. It's been going on since Lucifer rebelled from God on the first day of creation. All right, that's a rebellion. It's a revolt. He revolted against God. That's a capital R revolution. It's been going on from the very beginning. But little r revolutions pop up now and then because the devil gets a headway going, he gets a foot in the door, and he gets something going. And it gets headway, and it gets steam, and it builds up. And then the church and the world that are ordered to the church and with the church crushes it, and then it goes underground a little while, it comes back out again. We know there's been a revolution since the fall of Adam and Eve, since they went along with the devil. They listened to his voice. And they broke free from God. They revolted. So revolutions are bad. Note the root word, to revolt. To revolt. Revolutions are revolting. They're disgusting things. When you eat something that's not good for you, you say, that's revolting. Well, that's how we should think of all revolutions. They give you an upset stomach. They give you a headache. So they involve sin. They involve disorder. They involve hurt to God because God is order. He orders things. They involve hurt to His church. They involve hurt to all creation. So I urge you first and foremost to always try to use the word revolution properly because it's sort of a trick, especially in modern times, to use the word revolution in a loose manner. Like, that was a revolutionary idea. And that was a revolutionary new process they've got. Saying they want you to think of that as an okay word. And get used to using it. No, it's not. Okay? If it's revolutionary, then it's going against an established order that is proper. We use it loosely, and that I'm sure that there's some place for that, but I don't think I would do it. Try to avoid it if you can. Most especially, it's offensive that we would ever say that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the King, was a revolutionary. Some will say that. He was a revolutionary. No, He came to reestablish all things, to restore all things. So we're here to counter the revolution that was started with the devil and Adam and Eve in the garden. We're here to counteract that. That's what we're here to do. We should never call our good Lord, who brought order, law, fulfillment to the world, a revolutionary. And this is precisely why St. Paul says he came to order all things, to restore all things. Now, a scriptural image of the revolution, is the river. The river. We go to the Apocalypse chapter 12. Now, I want to stress something here. I'm not the church. I can only repeat and hopefully expand in some way to explain what the church teaches. So I'm not here to tell you this is the definite meaning of this Apocalypse chapter. We can apply it, though. It's given to us as an image. Now, the reason I say this is because some get nervous when you start looking at the Apocalypse. I don't know if that's our job to look at that, Of course it is. It's been given to us. Many saints have used the Apocalypse to understand what's going on in the world. Okay, so I'm just trying to get across that I'm not giving it a definite or definitive interpretation. I'm simply taking an image from the Apocalypse to help us see what's going on. Okay, if we go to the 12th chapter of the Apocalypse, we read, "When the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman, who brought forth the man-child. And there were given to the woman 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the desert unto her place where she is nourished, from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth after the woman water, as it were a river, that he might cause her to be carried away by the river." Okay, so there's this dragon, that's the devil. There's the church, that's the woman. He's casting out of his mouth a river. Okay, it's coming out of his mouth. The Psalms are full of this flood imagery, and we can see that this represents the river, or the revolution. So he's going to spew out the revolution, and it's going to reach a flood level. Now, the revolutionary, of course, is Satan. He is the master. He's the general. His headquarters is down in hell. So we say that these foul and fetid waters spewing forth of his mouth are the revolutionary waters. He tried to get Christ to go against the established order. We heard about that yesterday in the temptations of Christ. He was trying to get him to go against the established order. That's what he does. Does that make sense? That makes sense. I mean, that's exactly what he was trying to do. Make these stones into bread. That's not the established order of things. Jump from this temple. That's not the established order of things. Kneel down and adore me. That's not the established order of things. See, he's always trying to get us to go against the established order. I know Saul Alinsky, who trained many people to be revolutionaries, wrote these books like Reveille for Revolutionaries, I think, or Rules for Radicals. And in the dedication, he said he dedicated it to the devil who rebelled and got a kingdom. See? He rebelled, revolted, he got a kingdom. Now, whatever he's able to flood with his mouth becomes his domain. So his domain isn't just in hell, it's wherever he can flood. Okay, this is the image we've been given, and we're trying to expand it to understand. The revolution is aimed. We're going to talk about this more tomorrow, but it's aimed at what? The woman. And the woman is the church. That's why we feel more and more alone. Because the flood waters are going up, and the whole world is now looking at the church. You're the problem. So recall the 12th chapter of the Apocalypse is the one that starts, "And a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and a moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. So the woman is first and foremost the Holy Catholic Church. Second of all, it's the Lady, Blessed Mother. Listen to the Douay Rheims commentary. It's very good on this point. The woman is the Church of God. It also may, by allusion, be applied to our Blessed Lady. The church is clothed with the sun, that is, with Christ. She has the moon, that is, the changeable things of the world, under her feet. The crown of 12 stars with which she is crowned is the 12 apostles. She is in labor and pain while she brings forth her children and Christ in them, in the midst of afflictions and persecutions, in the midst of revolution. They don't use that word revolution. I just added that to explain that persecution. So we look at Lourdes. Here's an example. Here's Our Lady representing the church. There's been like 2 major floods that flooded Lourdes. So we can kind of see that's an image that's even come true in our time, literally, physically. Now, the revolutionary waters. Now we notice where the revolutionary waters come from. It spews forth from the mouth of the devil. His spoken word is revolutionary. It's filled with lies, half-truths, and novelties. His spoken word is propagated through the world today more than ever, most notably in the music. It's one of the biggest purveyors of His word. The music of our times, which includes many popular bands and musicians. It also is propagated through the mass media, TV, internet. You know all this. Movies, books. All heresy and error flow from this river. Now, recall the dream of St. John Bosco. He saw the church, and he described it. There was a council. The priests had to break up, and they're on this big ship, and they had to fight. Then they got into another council. And this is the dream of St. John Bosco about the church with the 2 pillars. There was another gathering of the bishops, he says. And then they had to go back out again. And the ship was barraged, he said at that point, with just pamphlets and books that were erroneous. Interesting. That's the flood. They tried to sink the ship. St. Anthony Mary Claret held that his priests, when he was Archbishop of Cuba, were most happy when staying clear of forbidden books. St. Thomas More, he worked very hard to burn all forbidden books coming into the realm of England, to protect the realm, whereas King Henry began to read them. Need we say more? What happened? St. Thomas was ultimately put to death, and the King Henry caused a revolution in England that is still there today. So, revolution is at root a war of words, a philosophy, a war between truth and half-truths. If you look at the French Revolution, they always start with a smear campaign. Marie Antoinette, for example, she was smeared very much. They were printing so many pamphlets against her, they were just filled with lies. And getting everybody to hate her, and they just wanted her dead after a while. Okay, so it always starts like that. You go to Rwanda, back in the 1990s. They got a hold of the radio station, and they started to say the Tutsis, one tribe, they were cockroaches. And pretty soon, the Hutus rose up and took machetes and killed almost 1 million people in 1 month's time. It's unbelievable. But how did it begin? Words, and lots of them. That's how it often starts. Lenin wanted to use movies to propagate his ideas. He loved the idea of movies. Okay, so those who listen to the voice coming through these sources, they kind of enter into the river. Okay, they start to drink it in. Let's go through the nature of the waters. The nature of the waters. Once again, to understand the causes, we'll understand the nature of the thing. So the revolutionary, we can say the grammar. All right, since it's a spoken word, it's somehow coming out of the mouth of the devil. It's got a grammar. Now, a grammar wants to put a structure onto the sentence. It wants to put a structure into the word. It wants to put a form to it. Now, this is the interesting thing. It's very important if you can grasp this, and you'll understand many things that are going on. the syntax or the arrangement, the grammar of the devil's spoken word, his revolutionary word, is the same as it was in Sodom and Gomorrah. Unbridled license on the sins of pleasures of the flesh, even the worst kinds, those of unnatural lust. Those that cry out to heaven for vengeance. So ultimately he wants to get to that level. You know you're getting close when that becomes a very common and popular thing. Immodesty, impurity is common. Now the grammar, it's amazing. Because it's the grammar of the revolution, okay, of the flow coming out of the devil's mouth. Because it's the grammar, it will get you in either direction. Either you give in to it and say, what's the big deal? Or you fight it, and if you fight it, it will attack you by a smear campaign. They will make up lies about you, and it'll have to do with that thing. That happens a lot. That's what Hitler did. All these guys do the same thing. When they want to attack you, they start there. That's the grammar of the revolution. That's their weapon. So, if you do not give in to it, you will get attacked on that issue. So the more the church fights that issue, the more they will attack. It'll be completely hypocritical. They'll say, we're for this sin, it's okay, there's nothing wrong with it in the whole world, but the minute you do it, you're behind bars, you're all kinds of stuff's going to happen to you. It's a very hypocritical system because this is the grammar. It will get you in either direction. Well, I tell you this, I can't stress it enough because it's hitting us all over the place. And the more you're aware of it, the more you say, okay, what's going on here? This is part of the devil's plan to get me to fail. He always starts with the sixth commandment. Okay, that's where he starts. If we can wake up there, you start to wake up all over the place. Now, furthermore, the pseudoscience of evolution is the river's philosophy. It's the undercurrent. It's the flow of the river. Wherever it flows, you'll find evolution. It keeps it flowing, and it whispers, as it were, progress, progress, make progress. Progress in what? Ultimately, progress in attacking the Catholic Church. That's a fact. Now, the ancient Greek pre-Socratic philosopher named Heraclitus, he died in the year 475 BC. He's the first one to really bring up evolution. It's just kind of interesting I bring it up because he said there's nothing permanent except change. It's an oxymoron. Nothing permanent except change. It's always changing. And that's permanent. And change alone is unchanging. That's Heraclitus. But here's what's kind of funny about what we're talking about today, this idea of a river. He said, you cannot step into the same river twice. So the revolution is evolutionary. It's always evolving. Oh, we used to consider that a sin, but we've evolved now. It's okay. When I was in high school, we were taught, well, you may be against that today, but tomorrow you may grow and understand something different. And you will accept it. You may have a different view. That's evolution. So those who listen to the murmurings of the stream and are captivated by its movements are pulled into its current. It's hard to resist its mesmerizing charm. Adam and Eve listened, and there have been countless drowning victims ever since. Many are floating merrily down the river. We know this. That's why we're here today, because we want to avoid that. They're heedless of its dangers and of their own destruction. Let's go through now some of the marks. Let's go through the marks of the revolution. We're just going to simply give some marks to try to identify it. So when you see the marks, you can say, okay, I get it. I see that, I see that, I see that. Because the church has marks. One, holy, Catholic, and apostolic. It's got other marks too, like Roman. Another mark would be persecuted. That's how you know the Catholic Church is the authentic church, because it's persecuted. That's from the saints. There's all these marks that you know, this is the church. I'm in the right spot. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you. If they hate me, they will hate you. If everybody was patting us on the back and saying, we love you, you'd be going, am I in the right spot? Beware when the world speaks well of you, the Lord said. So the saints tell us. St. Robert Bellarmine, one of them, one of the marks of the church, persecuted. How did the church get started? 12 men went out and they died. They were martyred. And the church was built upon them, the apostles. Okay, so the first mark we want to talk about is disorder. In general, revolutions are rebellions against the established or legitimate order. The established order is either directly willed by God, as it is in the case of His church. But also there's cases in the state, in countries, in other words, in governments, where God directly ordered that government. France is one of them. If you remember, France got started, St. Remigius baptized Clovis king. And a vial of oil came out of heaven. He received it and he anointed him king with that oil. And that oil was in the cathedral at Reims until the Revolution of France in the 1793. It's interesting that the French monarchy was almost lost when England was taking over the 100 Years' War. But God raised up a little girl, St. Joan of Arc, right? Where did she come from? Domremy. Doremi. Why is it called Doremi? Because it's named after Saint Remigius. Dom Remigius. Dom Remi. Do Remi. So the church in that town was Saint Remigius. Okay, and then she rose up, little girl, 17, and she's the greatest general the world has ever known, without exception. Everybody knows it, that studied it. No one could do what she did, because she had help from angels and saints. God preserved the order of France because He willed it directly. Now there's other governments that, like republics, like we live in. He did not will this directly, although we're trying to be taught that that happened. Now, God inspired the constitutions of America, but He didn't put His name in there. There's no name of God in the entire constitutions. So it's like, this is not an inspired document. This is a man-made document. But God allowed it. It's permitted. It's the established order that He's permitted. He's permitted in this country. So we respect it insofar as it's not sinful. So when it tells us to sin, we say, no, we can't do that. Note that these revolutionary republics are prophesied to end. If you read the authentic prophecies that have been approved, many of them are by saints. St. Francis Palau, or Paula. There's other saints. They have these prophecies that there will be all these republics before they ever came into being. So there had kings at that time. And he said, there's going to come a time, there's all these republics, and they will all fail. So He's permitted them, but they will fail. I mention this because we're not allowed to rebel even against revolutionary republics when it has been accepted or permitted to be established by God for some mysterious reason. But we can resist and counter that revolution when violations occur, like abortion. We should resist. We don't give in. Now, another mark of revolution, freedom from authority. Freedom from authority. Most notably, the authority of the church, which is the authority of God. Enlightenment seeks separation of church and God. So the Enlightenment, 17th, 18th century Enlightenment, we need to be completely separated from church and state. They need to be completely separated. Okay, so what they wanted was freedom from God. Yet these people will place great emphasis on authority coming from scientists. So they replace God's authority with those who are enlightened through science. That's the new nobility. They're the new priesthood. So for children of the Revolution, or the Enlightenment it's called, we can call it that in the later times, they should not question those who are expert. St. Paul tells us, though, that let every soul be subject to higher powers, for there is no power but from God, and those that are ordained by God. So we submit to God and His authority. Martin Luther and those along with him wanted to be free of the church. No hierarchy, no pope, no magisterium telling us what to believe. We'll decide. Mark of the Revolution, freedom from authority. Have you ever read Thomas Paine, Common Sense? Oh, he just rails against the Pope. Papolatry. Another mark, egalitarianism. Fancy word, just making no hierarchy. Just want to level everything. Everything's equal, on a level plane. That's egalitarian. That's a French revolutionary word. It came from them. So they reject hierarchy. This is a very important point. If you can understand this, you'll recognize the revolution a lot. That rejects hierarchy. It wants to make everything level. Interesting, the guillotine was actually an egalitarian effort. In those days, if you were a nobleman and you committed the crime and were convicted, then you would have your head chopped. That's how you were put to death. If you were a peasant, a merchant, and you were convicted of a crime, a capital crime, then they would hang you in France. You would be hanged, not chopped. But they went to, Mr. Guillotine developed the guillotine to make everybody equal, that everybody could die the same way. And boy, did it get carried away. But it's interesting that the guillotine was an effort of egalitarianism. Now, just think about this. Let's go to the French Revolution to show you how it worked. They called together what's called the Estates General under King Louis XVI because of all the chaos in the economy. And so the Estates General were three levels. First, there was the clergy, highest level. Then there was the noblemen, second level. Then there was the lowest level, the lay level, the merchants and farmers and the peasants. But soon, that was broken down. They didn't like it. So the merchant class, the farmers, they rebelled against the nobility and the clergy, and they said, "We are the assembly, the National Assembly." And everybody joined them, and there was no more hierarchy. But that wasn't enough for them, and pretty soon they went to the General Assembly. Then they went to the Paris Commune. Everybody was equal, and so everybody got their head chopped off. And so when you lose hierarchy, you start down the path of revolution. Revolutions don't recognize a vertical. They don't recognize a vertical. Horizontal. So St. Paul describes revolutionaries as many walk that are enemies of the cross of Christ, whose end is destruction, whose God is their belly, and whose glory is their shame, who mind earthly things. Horizontal. St. Paul to Timothy says, men such as these are lovers of themselves. They're covetous, haughty, proud, blasphemers, wicked, lovers of pleasure more than of God. And when they gain power, he says, the times will be dangerous. Another mark of the revolution is autonomy. Autonomy, where we can govern ourselves. Freedom from external control. We don't need your laws. We don't need your influence. We don't need that outside magisterial influence. We can take care of ourselves. So the reliance on reason as man's primary and even only source of knowledge is a sign of this. Thus the enlightened, the revolutionaries, will deny and even ridicule divine revelation. We're free of that superstition. No more vertical. And if they do accept the revelation of God in some way, they tear it apart. They'll say, well, that's really not a miracle. Jesus had everybody bring their sandwiches and share. He didn't really multiply the loaves. Okay, it wasn't the Red Sea, it was the Reed Sea. It was just high tide and low tide, see? And the wheels got stuck in the mud, and that was that. See, they try to explain away the miracles. You see that? They take away the vertical. There was no worldwide flood, they will say. So one definition of the Enlightenment, the period of Enlightenment, that's the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. It emphasized rationalism, intellectual freedom, and freedom from prejudice and superstition and social and political activity. And when they use that word superstition, that means the Pope and divine revelation. Immanuel Kant, one of the most famous of the Enlightenment thinkers, he says, what's the motto of the Enlightenment? Have courage to use your own understanding. I am my own supreme guide. I don't need the church. That's what he's saying. Let's take a couple examples. Let's look at the humanist manifestos. Now, these were written in the 1930s and then, I believe, in the 1970s and 1980s. So there was 3 of them. And this kind of shows you how this developed. Okay, so in the 1930s, they're getting strong enough to write a manifesto and all these big names signing their name to it. This is what we believe. We begin with humans, not God. Nature, not deity. So we don't begin with the vertical, we begin with the horizontal. That's revolution. Another one. Using technology wisely, we can control our environment. They're doing a wonderful job, aren't they? Look at all the extreme weather patterns we're getting now. We can conquer poverty. We can markedly reduce disease. And we have more disease today than ever. More strange diseases that are incurable than ever. Interesting. We can extend our lifespan. Well, we're still living to about 70 or 80 for those who are strong, it says in the Bible. Significantly modify our behavior. That's an interesting one too. I'm not so sure they've been successful, eh? Alter the course of human evolution. Cloning. Genetically modified things, right? Cultural development, we can modify, right? Unlock vast new powers. Fukushima come to mind. And provide humankind with unparalleled opportunity for achieving an abundant and meaningful life. That horizontal, see? They're going to control the world. There's the Atlas. You see that? There's Atlas. He's going to do it all. I've got it. Values and ideals, however carefully wrought, are subject to change as our knowledge and understanding advance. We affirm that moral values derive their source from human experience. Today I may experience this. Tomorrow I may experience that and change my mind. There is no set values. These are the revolutionary ideas that we've been indoctrinated with since our childhood. And I think that's why you're all here doing what you're doing, trying to avoid this. Okay, I want you to see it, though, because this is what you're up against. Another mark of the revolution is progress. To understand modern revolution, we need to factor in contributions like Newton, Hegel, Marx, and Darwin. Now, I'm not condemning Newton. Don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to point out that this is what's been used to understand the world around us. So they saw the world under the aspect of motion. Newton, everything was in motion. Strife, struggle for Marx and Darwin and Hegel. Newton spoke of forces, Darwin of natural selection and evolution, while Hegel and Marx used the notion of a dialectic. A dialectic is like you got one thing on this side, you got an opposing thing over there, they fight it out until something new is produced. We got a lot of that in the world today. So it's happening to us. Let's get this group of Catholics over here, that group over there, fight it out and produce some new thing. Or they all leave The devil loves it. So the key contribution to this is becoming. Becoming. Things are becoming, see? Forces, motion, thesis, antithesis, synthesis. We get new becoming things. Thus, modern man is always on the lookout for something new. He wants a new age, a new era to begin. And he will help it come about if necessary. This is a big one. Another mark of the revolution, personality cults. Cults personality. Since the king has been rejected, then there must be a replacement to fill the vacuum. A new leader must be enthroned. So the secular people, often sinful and perverted men, are enthroned. Political heroes. Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, Stalin, Mao, Che Guevara, Jim Jones even we can think of, Charles Manson. These people were political and social and group heroes for some. Maybe small groups, maybe big groups. Jim Jones took 1,000 people's lives. They thought he was it. He was their personality cult. It's cult personality. Okay, science heroes. We have all kinds of those. Newton, Edison, etc. They're sporting heroes. Hollywood actors. Musicians. And so you go to some people's rooms, the children have a life-size poster of some sporting guy. He's my hero. And so there's all these cults of personality to distract us. You get involved with these characters that are like trying to get people to follow them. They're like a guru. And they're there to help you. Be careful. That's a mark of the revolution in which we live. Another mark, fear. God uses filial fear and love to draw men close to himself. The devil can only use servile fear. External fear. Fear of some kind of a loss. Pain, agony of some kind to get us to do what he wants us to do. So there's these times of terror. They always accompany the revolution to motivate the people to do what the devil ultimately wants, what the people find distasteful. Now, fear is used to purge the people or to focus them on doing the task at hand. So, for example, Stalin always purged his people before he wanted something big. If he was going to go to war, he would purge the people. He would get them so afraid. He would just pull people out of all these places, loyal people, and he would kill them. Everybody's afraid. I'm a good communist. Don't take my life. I'm here to serve. Okay, go kill these people. Okay. And they'd go do exactly what he said. Now, God, on the other hand, he'll purge too. He purges through a hierarchy, according to St. John of the Cross and other saints. So St. John says that God works like this. God purges and illumines both angels and men through a hierarchy. When it is given to men, especially through a powerful angel, that's an archangel or any angel, it's received in a very limited and painful way for man. But it also fills them with love. Okay, let's take an example. By the way, St. John says that this purgation dries the wood of the soul to prepare it for the fire of love that is to come. It squeezes out the moisture of immaturity. And as a result, the person is prepared to burn with love for God and to endure extreme temperatures of persecution. Perfect example is the children of Fatima. The angel came to them 3 times. One time just at a long distance, but second time he came personally real close. And then the second time or third time again. And he taught them these prayers. You know the story. Now, apparently it was St. Michael, because he's the patron of Portugal. And he says, I'm the guardian angel of Portugal. Now, when he got there, he just took those children, talking an archangel here, filled them with kind of a certain fear. Now, when they tried to talk after the angel came, they couldn't even talk. Francisco's like, can you tell me what happened? No, I can't talk right now. We'll talk about it tomorrow. And so they just went home and they were kind of in a daze because they were just pressed by an archangel. But when Our Lady came, they were so on fire. See that? He prepared them. And then when it came down to be persecuted, you're going to be thrown into a vat of boiling oil. Okay. Little children. Okay, I'll die. Can we do that? We haven't been purged through that angel. You see that? That's how God works. So this is kind of what a mission does. We're here to be like, in a certain sense, St. Michael. We're here pressing you. It's painful. We're trying to enlighten you through a hierarchy. And it's going to be like, oh, Father, can you stop? Oh, I can't take any more. But at the end of the day, hopefully by the time the mission is done, you will be on fire. A new fire can be lit in you that will burn brighter and help you to endure suffering. That's how God uses fear. The devil, it's always external, like, I'm afraid, I'm afraid. And we do dumb things when we're afraid. So we see here that the apocalypse ends with a dragon standing on the sand. We've gone through the marks. Now let's just kind of take a look here what we're up against. Apocalypse 12, the devil was angry against the woman and went to make war on the rest of her seed, who kept the commandments of God and have testimony of Jesus Christ. And he stood upon the sand of the sea. So the devil is standing on sand. This too is significant. Those who listen to the words that flow from the devil's mouth build on sand. And they try to dig out a foundation, end up digging and digging and digging and digging until they hollow out hell, which has no bottom. And they fall into it themselves, as King David says in the Psalms. Did not our Lord say at the end of a Sermon on the Mount, everyone therefore that heareth my words, notice what he says, my words, and doth them, shall be likened to a wise man that built on the house upon rock, built his house upon rock. The rain fell, the floods came, the floods, and the winds blew, and they beat against that house, and it fell not, for it was founded on a rock. And every one that heareth these my words, and doth them not, shall be like the foolish man that built his house upon sand. He gave into the revolution, and the rain fell, and the floods came, and the wind blew, and they beat upon that house, and it fell. Great was the fall thereof. So listening to the devil's word is like building on sand. Now this is a little disturbing for some. I'm sorry, but we have to do this. This is the pressing thing I'm doing to you. The revolution is everywhere. Rains, floods. Some people try to get away. All right, I know people who've moved to other countries thinking they could get away. There's people who want to build out in the country some special castle, and they're going to go out there and protect themselves. And they're going to be safe from the revolution. And this is precisely why I want to give you a class on the wine tasters, because you can't get away from it. You can insulate, but you cannot isolate. You just can't. It won't work today. Those days are over. We look at the 13th chapter of the Apocalypse. We read. This is the next chapter after the 12th. By the way, Lucia of Fatima said the third secret had to do with the 8th through 13th chapter of the Apocalypse. Okay, 13th chapter. It says, all the earth, all the earth was in admiration after the beast, the one that's spewing out. So it seems that everyone on earth at some point will be captivated by the revolution. Now this seems to be one of those times. In another place, we read how the world so admires the revolution that the beast has produced that people exclaim, who is like the beast? Who shall be able to fight with him? In other words, the flood is so widespread, so accepted by man now. Even those inside the church, it seems, at times. Who can go against it? And finally, we read in another rather frightening passage about this flood, that it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And the power was given him, the beast, over every tribe and people and tongue and nation. Now, you look around and see whole nations have fallen from the faith. Many of our family and friends have left the true church. Many priests have left the priesthood. There's an apostasy going on. And this is the same as saying that wherever the flood has reached, it's got these drowning victims. So we cannot escape by going to another country or seeking refuge in the wilderness. We must stand and fight where we are. Another important point. How about this? The revolution will end. It will fail. It will not completely overtake the church. Again, from the 12th chapter of the Apocalypse we hear, and the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the river, which the dragon cast out of his mouth. The earth will open up. The revolution will go back where it belongs, hell. We will win. Hell is in the center of the earth. That's where it goes back to. And those who give in to the revolutionary river will just float right along with it. And so we need to avoid that and plunge over the falls. We don't want that. Those who embrace the revolution fall into hell's abyss. There's no rest in that place. It's always progress there. Everybody's floating around, according to Sister Lucia's description of hell. There's no rest. We say there's no rest for the wicked. Isaiah, many times it says that in that book. So, description of hell, we can see that evolution is reigning there. Progress. No rest. Change. So watch out for evolution. It's very dangerous stuff. It'll not lead you to the right spot. Now, only she can help you. As Sister Lucia reported of Our Lady, she said, only she can help you. The church and our mother, the Blessed Mother, who represents the church, perfect ideal representative of the church. So alas, dear faithful of Christ our King, who will be found to be an immovable rock in this flooding revolutionary river? Only those who build upon the rock, which is the church, who is Christ and His church by extension. And the Peter, is papacy. And they'll listen and meditate on the word that comes forth from the mouth of God rather than the word that comes forth from the devils. We must rely on divine revelation for guidance in this dark time. We need divine revelation. So just look at it like this. The revolution wants to take away the vertical, then you should want the vertical all the more. We want to study divine revelation, understand it. You will be safe in many ways, especially if you study what the saints have said, like the fathers of the church. As King David says so beautifully in the Psalms, He is my firmament. Only the church and her perfect image, which is the type, which is the Blessed Virgin Mary, she's the perfect image of the church, can enable us to remain immovable rocks, for she is the woman in the desert. So only she can help you. We'll talk about her tomorrow. Believe me, we'll fill in some things there that maybe you have questions about today and show you how to be faithful to our Holy Mother, the Church, and be successful in your battle against the revolution and be a saint. Viva Cristo Rey! Glory be to the Father and to the Son and to the Holy Ghost, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen.